Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcast fans of all ages. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I'm Dave Valente, joined as always by Dan the Man Fishman
Was
and by AJ.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
Well, I'm going to be squinting at y'all a lot because I'm on my phone and I don't have the best eye health to begin with. So
I have to say the picture and sound is excellent though.
Yeah.
well, yay.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, I'm squinting because I'm blind as shit. So
I'm squinting because I'm not wearing my glasses. I haven't been able to find them. I've been looking for them all afternoon.
Ahoy, Drew. Hi, Janice. Good to see you all tonight.
Ahoy, boy.
Give us a like, share, subscribe to all the good things. Helps us out, gets the bandwidth out there, gets the word out there. We're back on Twitter or Twix, whatever it is now. We've been off the last couple of weeks because of policy changes by Twix. So we're on one of the channels. I've been sharing it to the other channels on my Twix. So we are good there. So yeah, this week we're going to be talking about mental illness. Hey, Craig, how you doing? The reason why, I've been talking a lot about mental illness and kind of the impact of what we've been going through collectively when it comes to politics, when it comes to what's going on in the world in general. There's tons of stressors out there. The 2024 election has been a roller coaster to begin with. Couple that with nearly constant war for the last 30 plus years when it comes to the United States. We've been involved in something or another since August 1st of 1992, or 1990, I'm sorry. There's the war in Ukraine now. You've got possible escalation of what's going on in Israel to Lebanon with Hezbollah. The
right-wing extremists doing well in France.
Oh yeah.
But
pressures are there.
It's interesting because, like, I can remember 9/11 clear as a bell. I mean, I'm old when 9/11 happens, and I thought to myself at the time, I'm like, this is just one more super crazy thing. Because I thought the Desert Storm was like a crazy thing to have happened in my generation. And I think what happens is that as a child, you're sort of protected a little bit from the craziness, unless you have the misfortune, the bad luck to grow up in a house that has real craziness in it, in which case that sucks even more. Yeah. But the one constant thing in life is that it can be a shit show at any point in time. And that's the thing that weighs upon us. It's been shown through experiment after experiment that your capacity to absorb things is just like your capacity for carrying things. You can only carry so much. You can only live with so much. And there has to be a way to lighten your burden physically, spiritually, mentally, whatever, or you're going to break down.
Yeah. And it's
that's
not
what
just
we're talking about.
And it's not just, international news of things going on. I mean, there are stressors in everyone's life. Like, I honestly went through some really bad stress this year with my wife being sick, constantly sick for a month and a half, being apart from her for a month and a half, getting her back home and helping her recover. I've had a really rough year. And so this last month, I decided to seek counseling, psychological talk therapy. And we could talk about the difference between what a psychologist is versus a psychiatrist. If you're going to a psychologist, it's more talk therapy to understand traumas and triggers within your life and how to deal with them, giving you ways to manage those stresses and those triggers in your life. A psychiatrist can do all that, but they can also prescribe medication to deal with those triggers and real mental illness of the chemical imbalance side of mental illness. So
Perfect example would be
sometimes you can have both.
yeah.
Yeah, you can have people can definitely have a team, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of times that a social worker is an important part of your mental health team as well. You can think of examples in popular film or popular media. Dr. Malfi in Sopranos is a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Because she listens and she talks, but she also prescribes drugs to Tony for things like that.
Yeah.
Sydney in MASH, and I may be dating myself a little bit there, but Sydney's a psychologist, right? He comes up and he talks to the guys and he helps them deal with wartime stress and stuff like that, but he doesn't give them medication for it. He doesn't say, I don't know what the state of psychotropics were supposedly during the Korean War, but I can't imagine they were great.
Well, and I think there was a reticence back in the day when it comes to the military in prescribing drugs that would impair your ability in the battlefield.
Right.
If you're prescribed some heavier medication, that it would probably pull you out of combat. So I think that they were much more favorable towards psychology versus psychiatry.
Yeah. And then there's the role of a social worker too, and there are lots of social workers who are licensed practicing therapists as well. They have often a different background. A lot of them come out of family therapy, stuff like that. And there's a lot of times that, I'm biased, but I used to work at a psychiatric hospital. And the social workers were the ones who I found had the greatest life experience. And if you were talking about, life stuff, family stuff, things like that, social workers had that covered. If you're talking about things that were more complicated, psychologists are where you want to be. And then for the stuff that you really need meds for, only a psychiatrist can do that. Although they have been experimenting with allowing psychologists and nurse practitioners in some states to be able to prescribe psychotropics.
Yeah, nurse practitioners have been getting a lot more power when it comes, and it's born out of the fact that we do have a health crisis in the country and that we don't have enough healthcare professionals to provide support. So they're looking at things like, allowing nurse practitioners to do a lot more than previous. And there's also a massive shortage in mental health providers. Anybody who's been trying to get mental health resources or appointments or things like that will know that it has been a very difficult time to get it because just understand we've come out of, and Janice points one of the biggest triggers out there, the whole COVID crisis. The impacts that COVID had on people doing, going from fully active in their communities, out there talking to people, and then being shut in for weeks to months, and then restricted access, and putting things on their face, and all the stuff that goes along with that.
The grieving that comes from your loved ones were in a nursing home at the time, and they died alone because you couldn't be there.
Yeah.
The guilt that comes with that.
Yep.
People carry that. I mean, they really do. They carry it with them. The survivor's guilt of any situation, and we all went through that together. And some of us had slightly different situations than others, but we all had some version of our life completely changed.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of people who, in the beginning had to deal with a lot of fear. What is going to happen? Is this really going to be, the end of life on Earth? A lot of people.
I got my papers together.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing. Right. That was one of the hardest things that my wife and I did was say, okay, first let's talk about, for me with a chronic lung condition, if I got sick, who knows what it would be. Talk about what do we want to do, but also talk about, here are all my passwords. Here's how you manage my account. Here's how you get access to all my savings accounts, IRAs, stuff like that. And that stuff that is hard to do. That is hard to do as a couple.
It is.
And it's funny because we had a conversation. I'll just get a little sort of into it, where Ellie sort of expressed to me what she would want me to do afterwards. And I'm like, I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'll make sure that, you have a very nice send off, but then I'm not sticking around much longer after that. And so, having those conversations with each other, it's hard.
It is.
And it is, it's this weird world we live in. And to not be able to talk to people about that stuff, because we are social animals, we don't know what's normal in our lives because it's just us. We might be dealing with, extraordinary circumstances. We might be dealing with normal circumstances. I remember this revelation. This is going to sound really stupid and perhaps a little narcissistic, but when I was graduating high school, I was with a group of my friends, and I'm like, guys, I got to tell you, I'm worried about the future, right? I'm not sure what's going to happen when we go off to college and stuff like that. And they're all like, oh, yeah, we're like that too. I'm like, really? It's not just me? I'm like, no, everybody's worried about the future. And, it was such a relief to talk to other people about that. So, in that space, though, it's also a weird set of circumstances because it's great to be able to talk to people about that, but it's hard to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, it is.
Being vulnerable with another human being can be so difficult. Whether it's a friend or a family member, or you go to therapy for the first time and you have those nerves. And that is so normal. It is so typical to be anxious before an appointment that you really don't know how this is going to go. You're going to have to open up to this person and give them a chance to respond. And the nervousness of it all is completely normal.
Yeah, I was absolutely.
That has seen like 5 different therapists.
I was absolutely nervous. This week was my first appointment, and getting into, it was. I didn't know exactly what to expect, and not going too deep into everything, but it really was, almost like a trauma dump. You're talking about all the stuff that's going on in your life, and things in your past that might have triggered stuff like that, and you're just putting out as much out there as possible. And it's just like peeling the layers of an onion back, trying to get to the core. And it was difficult, and I don't think we got even a fraction of the way there, because there's just so much there that you want to pull apart and really delve into.
And I think too, we tend to gaslight ourselves sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Where we sort of say, wow, that's not really what happened, or blah blah blah, about our own life truths. And being in a place where you can say to somebody else a truth is sometimes the thing that makes it more real for you. Yeah. And so there's this benefit to talking. And if you can have a way to talk with a professional, that's a really great thing. And the resources have never been better than they are today.
Yeah. If you haven't noticed, on the bottom of the screen, I am scrolling through hotlines. If you are having any issues and you need to talk to somebody, and you don't want to talk to one of us, there are plenty of resources out there. The Substance Abuse Mental Health Administration has a helpline, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The hotline is 988. Just dial 988, just like 911 when you're having a physical emergency. For mental emergency, you need help, 988.
And 988 is in English and Spanish, just for those that need it. Because that's a really big deal. It's a really big deal right now. I have contact with people all over the United States right now, and mostly in the West since I've moved out here. But there are a lot of people that are so very scared and not sure what's coming next because what's everybody doing on the TV? Well, they're talking about immigrants. Well, are they going to stop there? Are they just going to move everybody that they don't want? I mean, everybody's really stressed out. And
And
some
there's
of my Spanish-speaking clients, are terrified, just terrified.
Sure.
So.
Right. And there's so much violence just in our face all the time that, we all have to wonder because, reality TV and clips on YouTube and Facebook, we all wonder at what point in time does this sort of violence come into my life? And, if you are, an undocumented person, you wonder at what point in time did something happen and suddenly I'm in front of it. Or, if you're just a person who drives a car, you wonder what happens when I'm just going to be in a road rage or at Walmart or all these things that we see videos of that are just terrible. And we think, that's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
That is going to happen to me.
It is, we can talk about the role of media and, the 24-hour news cycles and its impact on our collective mental health because of, they've got to fill the airwaves and get money for their advertisers and all that good stuff. More eyes, more, it bleeds, it leads, all that type of stuff. But I think just knowing where, the impacts that it's having on you, I think we definitely do need to discuss the idea that where are the warning signs? What are, and what I'm going to talk about are not an all inclusive list. These are like big highlights, things that are big signs. But if you think that you need to speak to a professional or speak to a friend or anybody, do it. Err on the side of caution. That's my advice, is to err on the side of caution, because even if, and
well,
everybody's going to have something.
How do I know?
Yeah.
How do I know that, what is bothering me, these thoughts that run through my mind at night, the thing that stops me from getting to sleep, the thing that makes me have to pull the car over at some point in time, think, how do I know that's not just regular life? How do I know that maybe I should seek some treatment for it?
Yeah. So
here's you're having to pull the car over and you're staying up at night worrying about it.
Yeah, I mean that's what these signs are. So some signs of possible mental illness or depression or whatever. Not all mental illness is depression. I know a lot of it gets couched. It's like how the people who are against sex work call everything trafficking. I think everything kind of gets lumped into the depression bucket. Right. But yeah, so excessive worrying and fear. And I'll tell you how many of these I had before I sought help. Feeling excessively sad or low, confused, thinking of problems concentrating or learning. So more signs, extreme mood changes, including uncontrollable highs and feelings of euphoria, prolonged and strong feelings of irritability or anger, avoiding friends and social activities, and then some more signs, difficulties understanding or relating to other people, changes in sleeping habits, as we talked about, feeling tired and low energy, and sometimes some symptoms of mental health disorders will appear: physical problems, stomach pains, heart palpitations, those type of things. So just some ideas of eating when you're not hungry or not eating. So people process it differently. I know at one point when I was having, back in my college days, had a romantic, my first college days, romantic fling go sideways. I didn't eat. And I was, so depressed and in my head all the time. But I will tell you, out of these signs, I would probably say there's there's three each. I would probably say 6 of the 9 I had. And it's just, they don't all present at the same time. They don't, it's not like I'm always worrying, but if I wasn't worrying, maybe I was low energy, and not sleeping well. If I was, had decent energy, I was, having confused thinking, not able to focus my thinking. So they manifest in different ways at different times. So, now it's the idea of going to talk therapy and learning how, what I have in my life and what I need to talk about, and get out there and deal with, and then coming up with a plan with my psychologist on how to mitigate those issues.
So, it's interesting. The last 2 posts from Janice and Drew talk about self-medicating. And, it's an interesting thing. We live in a world again today where it's easier than ever to self-medicate.
Yeah.
Alcohol, cannabis, pretty much all the drugs that you want. Prescription drugs are easy to come by. But I will tell people, and I say this as a person who partakes of the occasional recreational drug experience, drugs are not a great answer to a mental health issue. Even though, you'll hear people say, oh, I just need a drink. Or, you know what, I'm going to go home this weekend. We get super high. Recreational experiences are a good way to put down that burden for a while that we talked about, because you can only carry so much physically, you can only carry so much mentally. And if you're going to have a break from that stuff by engaging in recreational activity, that's one thing. On the other hand, if you think that alcohol, because it makes you feel better in a short term, is a solution to depression, well, you and 95 million other people. And it generally doesn't work. Yeah. And it's one of those things that it's difficult for people to deal with, because what we see on the media, what we see in our popular images, are people addressing mental health problems by partaking of a drink or something like that. And you know what? I'm going to include in there too, what we've been sort of talking about, Janice and Dave, a little bit. There's a lot of people who self-medicate with food. That's not real healthy either. No. What happens when you have something terrible? I'm going to break out the Ben and Jerry's.
Comfort
what
food.
Happens when I'm celebrating a new job? I'm going to break out the Ben and Jerry's. We have this unhealthy relationship with food as a mental health thing as well.
Sure.
And they all add up. We're looking for a solution to the human problem, when in reality, the only solution to the human condition is more humans and human contact. That sort of way of finding a way to talk and identify. And so, I said I worked at a psychiatric hospital. I worked there for 5 years. And we used to say that all the staff was doing therapy in 8-hour shifts. And really interestingly, one of the things that you learn early on, and the psychiatric hospital I worked with, Meridell Achievement Center in Liberty Hill, Texas. It was a residential therapy center for adolescents. And we got some kids who, they had some bad stories. And one of the very first things that I would see the staff teach them to do is to get the kids to say what their problems were, what they were feeling out loud, self-cueing themselves to say, right now I don't feel good. Right now I'm sad. Right now I'm angry. That sort of thing. And, that's a nice first step that everybody can get to, and it will help you have a better idea as to what's actually going on. If you can start saying aloud what your feelings are, it gives you an idea of how many times am I actually sad over the course of the day? Because, everybody gets sad every now and then. Again, it's the human condition. But if you find you're saying to yourself 6 or 7 times a day, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm so angry that I'm seeing red, I can't take this anymore, that sort of thing. Talking to yourself is a good way to start feeling and identifying what's going on with you, because that's how you know where your mental health case is, right?
Yeah.
That's how you take your own temperature for mental health. It's how you're feeling and what you're able to say to yourself.
Well, and I mean, but there are some times
I
that
didn't work in like I work. Go ahead.
no, go for it.
AJ first.
AJ first.
I didn't work in a psychiatric hospital, but I kind of did. I worked at a county jail, and that
Yep.
county jail, I would say a good 50% of the population easily was actually suffering from some sort of psychosis, especially people that had been doing drugs for so long. At that point, they really are just, they're gone,
Yeah.
And we would have people that came in there that had the mindset of 12-year-olds, and they're in there for assault because somebody touched their shoulder wrong, and they reacted. They reacted the way a child would. But they are, 6'4". You can't react the way a kid would when you're 6'4". And that's the reason that they were there at the jail. And yes, these people would self-medicate, and they'd come in and they'd be withdrawing from all of these different drugs, and then you'd have to find the right medication for them. And we found the right cocktail. There you are again, hi. And it would be just like, because they were repeat. The only time they were on their medication and stable was while they were in jail, and the 2 weeks after, because we always sent them a 2 weeks worth of meds. And then it's a never-ending cycle with some people. It really, really is. And I don't want to discourage anyone. I just, so many of them, the reason that they ended up at the jail was because they did decide to self-medicate instead of reaching out and saying, this isn't right. And admitting that, yeah, something's here, and I need to investigate that. And some of them, of course, didn't have the resources, but some of them did. And they chose, they chose the alcohol or whatever it is. And I can say that with certainty, because they come back to the world, they're kind of embarrassed to see me again.
Shake your microphone, AJ. Didn't work.
Yeah,
we're getting a little bit of buzz from you.
Hold on a second. Let me.
You're good.
I'm going to mute you right quick, and then we'll. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with it.
Yeah, we're getting weird feedback. Maybe my guess is going to be either reconnect the Bluetooth. Hi, Holly. Welcome to our show.
Hey, Holly.
It moves in and out. Right now, it's just a little bit.
Yeah, it's much better.
And it just started too. So we can hear you.
You sound kind of like a cyborg, though.
Yeah. Do you have a wired headphones? Or just use the phone. Don't even use the Bluetooth.
Can y'all hear me now?
It's still scratchy.
It is scratchy.
Yeah, this is all I've got.
It was so good for a while, and your video is excellent. Oh, there. That's great.
Yeah.
What'd you do? You fixed it. It's good.
All right. Well, that's good. All right.
Wait, maybe she muted herself. Oh, yeah, she muted herself. That's why it sounded good.
Yeah.
Darn it.
It's okay. It's okay. Y'all have a good night. I don't want to jack up the show.
We love you, AJ. Mwah.
Thank you. All right.
So,
Those are really good points.
no, they were fantastic points. One of the things that I hear a lot when talking about mental illness and addiction, because addiction is often one of those things that sprouts out of mental illness because you're not dealing with an issue in your life.
Yep.
And you're using whether it's cannabis or alcohol or even harder drugs to repress your your memories, your that what you're trying to avoid dealing with. And
Right.
a
The
lot of what
voices in your
happens
head that are uncomfortable.
yeah, you're one of the things that you will be dealing with when you do get mental health is, like with my first meeting, we were talking about a lot of the things that happened in my past that are triggering, and it's, we will get all of that out there and then come up with a path forward on dealing with each of those issues, and coming up with strategies to healthily deal with those issues. What to do when you are confronted with this issue, rather than shutting down. Like sometimes I get so overwhelmed, I'll just kind of I have like executive paralysis. I just can't make a decision because it's just so overwhelming. So that's one of the big things, that how mental health can lead to things like substance abuse, because you are dealing with something in your past that you don't know how to deal with,
Right.
and you don't have a strategy to deal with it other than, well, when I get really fucking high, I don't feel it,
Yeah,
or when
because
I
it
get
numbs.
really drunk, I don't think about the trauma I had when I was a child. When I'm using heroin, I don't think of shit. So
Right.
I just completely unplug.
Well, it's an interesting thing, and I don't want to glorify heroin,
No,
but we've talked about it before. That people will say like there are, people will say that the first rush from heroin is better than having your first child born. It's a better feeling than that, and that's a scary ass thing to say.
yeah, it is.
So I get that point about it, but what's interesting about it is that you know the other thing that is a real gotcha in terms of mental health is our ability to rationalize things. And in many ways, the people who often need the most help are the people who have the capacity to think their way through things and solve a lot of problems. And they think, I'm going to be able to solve this problem. I'm going to be able to do this on my own. When in reality, a lot of times we're in a place because of either a lack of resources or lack of understanding or something that has made us
Disposed.
predisposed, motherfucker.
Words are hard.
Yeah, you have a proclivity for, because that's easier. You have a proclivity for getting into this sort of pattern where, you don't even realize that it's self abuse, but you are berating yourself or, shaming yourself or criticizing yourself. And then you get into a feeling where you're not worthy of this good thing. You're not worthy of good people. You're not worthy of health care, mental health care.
Yeah.
And those are the things that are easy to address if you can. If you can find the way, that first step, start talking to yourself, a little bit of self cueing, identifying your feelings, maybe keep a journal. Janice suggested that earlier. And then based on what you look there, you say, maybe I should talk to a health professional. And the medical system is so set up for this right now. It's so different than it used to be. You can tell your primary care physician, say, I'm having these thoughts and they're complicated and I don't know what to do with them. Can you recommend somebody? And they will recommend somebody for you. And that'll work really well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it is like with substance abuse and self harm. Um, it is an immediate fix to your problem. It's not a long term fix. It's not, but with drug use and things like that, you tend to need to take more and more to get that fix, and it starts to cause a cycle, because you're doing more and more things to get that fix, to escape that problem that you haven't dealt with, that you're piling on more problems, that you need more drugs to escape, more alcohol to escape. And um, the reason why I think it's better to deal with your problems and work with a professional, or work with, however you can do it. My suggestion is working with a professional, but deal with the problem so that, next time another problem that maybe not quite related, but has some relation to it, you have the abilities to deal with that problem and be able to take that problem on head on, and not spiraling into another cycle of, I got to get drunk to get out of the, get my head out of this space. I got to, medicate to get out my head out of this space. I'm able to do this thing and deal with the problem and work on that issue without resorting to bad habits to, make myself feel better rather than just dealing with the problem.
Yeah. And though I think, we've hit the thing pretty well for National Mental Health Week or Mental Health Month. But remember, too, that everything that we're talking about, maybe it doesn't apply to you right now, but maybe there's somebody who's hoping that you can be the person that cues them, that says, there are a bunch of resources out there. Maybe we can talk about stuff, but maybe, you might want to talk to, just ask your physician and say if they've got somebody to recommend, a way to do it so that you don't have to be alone in this thing. And that's, go ahead.
You got a good employer. Employers do have employee assistance programs that do have mental health resources. You may be able to get a couple of introductory sessions free through your employer. I know people, when I've talked about getting help, they've said, well, you can come to me with any of your problems. And I appreciate people reaching out and saying that to me. I do. I don't want to seem ungrateful. But I did want to get in front of a professional. One, I don't like dumping my problems on my friends, and I don't want to have them worrying about me. But I also want somebody that does have the resources and have the training to provide me the resources with dealing with what I'm dealing with, because I don't want to become a burden.
Exactly.
And I want to take what at this point, I know that I don't know a lot, but I'm trying to share what I can, because it is such an important issue right now. That's why we're sharing these mental resource lines and mental resource information. This is such a slow one. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. So National Suicide Hotline, the crisis lines, and we're doing warm lines for less emergent issues that you might want to or need to deal with.
Yep.
But
the other thing about it is sometimes it starts here, right? It starts with a conversation on a podcast. So bring us your shit.
Yeah.
Bring us your happy.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we're happy.
We've gotten some great comments here where people have offered fantastic stuff that can help you. And all of this is sharing and giving people more resources. The more that we talk, and I know not everybody wants to listen to our voices, but not just us talking, but the people here in the comment section talking about what they're dealing with and how they've dealt with things only helps. It provides people the ability to share their information. Uh, you know, I know that I'm in a place where I'm starting to seek help, but I don't have. I'm really wanting to be able to help other people get to that point where, um, just as you have a primary care provider when it comes to your healthcare, I almost think that people should really have someone that they talk to as far as mental health providers, whether it's a social worker, psychologist, psychiatrist, one of those three, to be able to help you. Because I think a lot of people have issues. You can't have existed in this world in the last decade and a half without having some kind of trauma, whether it's inflicted on you with external events or internal events.
Yep. I want to go to Holly's point. The 2 points there. First of all,
Sure.
100%. People worry that things can be expensive, but the obvious answer to that, can you afford mental health care? Can you not afford mental health care? In theory, if you are, living in America right now and you have a plan that is consistent with the AMA, it has mental health coverage in there. So ask your primary care physician, what do you recommend? What can I do? Call your exchange person if you're on the exchange. But chances are pretty good you have something in there. But it is the system of life that shit cycles in and out. And the one constant to all of that is you. And Holly's 100% right. Your physical health, nobody would say, well, you know what? Maybe wait on that heart palpitation you've been thinking on because maybe it'll get better. No. Unfortunately, there probably are a lot of men that do that historically, but
That's true.
Yeah, it's just as bad.
It's not a good policy. And it's just like with, and I see this all the time. You'll see like posts that, says going for a walk in the woods is my Xanax or whatever. Never feel bad about having to take medication. If you need to take medication, it's just like for me with diabetes, if I have to take metformin and take Ozempic and a host of other medications, I don't feel bad for taking medications. Not a walk in the woods may help me long term, but the medication is there to help me short term.
Right.
Take your medications and don't let people, especially ignorant internet assholes,
right,
dissuade you from taking your medications and doing the things that you need to do to take care of yourself.
Right. And it is true too, though, that thing about a walk in the woods or your yoga or whatever it is, time invested in you is always worthwhile.
Yes.
Whether that time is therapy, whether that time is whatever, don't be afraid to invest time in you. Don't be afraid to invest money in you. If you need to talk to a professional, if you need to find out if you need to talk to a professional, those resources are available. So find a way. And you know what? Some people, church is their thing. Some people, yoga is their thing. Some people, video games are their therapy. Some people, they talk to a mental health care professional. Everybody's path is different. Yeah. None of them are right. None of them are wrong. Find your way.
One size fits all, fits none.
Exactly right. That's a great way to put it.
And just to point out, Dr. Jordan is one of the most brilliant people I know. So no surprise that she's dropping gems of wisdom out there. She's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc.
Let's see. But yeah, take care of yourself. And mentally take care of yourself, because this is, it is part of your health. And, we talked about some of the symptoms that, untreated mental stresses will lead to physical stresses and physical issues. So go ahead and make sure that you're getting that stuff taken care of, because if you don't, those mental stresses will become physical stresses, will manifest physically.
And there's so many little things that we do for our physical health. We watch our diet, we put in a little bit of exercise, stuff like that. If you can find a way to take that little bit of time for your own mental well-being and do it deliberately, you're going to help yourself. Okay, your job is not just your physical health. So all of those things, Janice, I will tell you that for at least, this is 22 years ago, but engineers, software engineers, we would go and we would get very expensive manicures because you work with your hands, and so to do something awesome for them. I couldn't believe how therapeutic it was for us to just sit there. It's a bunch of guys that you soak in stuff that is not Dawn dishwashing detergent, but then they like buff your nails and they're so smooth afterwards. All this sort of revelation, and it was caring for ourselves, that sort of thing, learning to do that. And here's the other thing about it. We've said, oh, there's all these solutions, stuff like that. I don't want to trivialize it and make it seem like there's always a solution for somebody, because there's a lot of people that I tried this and I tried that, and I still have this darkness in my life. I still feel bad, something like that. Just because you're at the end of your rope doesn't mean that that's the end. That's when therapy really becomes an option. So don't worry. Now, see, pedicures, it's a different thing for me. Like, I want to do the one where I put my feet in the tub with a fish and they eat off the dead flesh. That sounds very exciting to me.
I've got ticklish feet. No.
Yeah. All right.
No. I either the pedicure or and I've had a pedicure before. It's not a pleasant experience for me.
I've never had a pedicure. I think that I think that my feet look amazing, and I think everybody else's feet look terrible.
Oh, mine look terrible. I've had foot surgery and I've got a Frankenfoot.
See, my foot. Let's see if I can get it up here.
Never give away the foot stuff for free, Dan.
But see, right, exactly. But see, look how small my little toe is. Right? It's because I'm further advanced.
Are you wearing do you wear high heels with a point? Is that why you're?
No, that's just the way they are. In fact, I rarely wear shoes at all, and when I do, it's almost always open-toed sandals.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Teva's. In fact, I have like 3 of the exact same model of sandal, because I like them so much.
I don't like flip-flops. I hate the little thing going between my toe that just.
Yeah, no, I don't like that either.
I will wear like a sandal like that, kind of an old, modern version of an old Roman sandal type thing. But for me, I'm more just keeping my foot covered up. I do wear Crocs. I don't give a shit what you think about Crocs. I've
never worn Crocs.
They're very comfy. They're my house shoe, really. Like I just wear them around the house just to, See, diabetics are very, you have to keep your feet free from damage, because those can spiral out of control.
Right. Interesting. I am, I'm a barefoot almost everywhere inside the house. And then I'll wear slippers when it gets really cold. But my wife and I have sort of different definitions of what is really cold. So while she's still in bed, I like to keep the house around 60. But once she gets up, then really cold is 75. And so then I'm back down to bare feet again.
I can't do anything above 72 in my house.
Oh no, we have.
Which my wife is the same way. So that's
you are fortunate. My wife is the opposite. In the winter, we have the wood stove, but we generally run the living room over 80 degrees, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
I hear you, James. There's certainly places where I shouldn't go barefoot, but like the other day,
Don't do it in Mexico.
I thought well, I mean, I grew up in Texas. I'm familiar with the brown recluse,
goat heads. No, goat
scorpions,
heads.
and stuff like that.
Fucking goat heads.
But I do think that see, exactly. I am with you, Doc. So I forgot what I was going to say. But so the other day, I had to run out to the chicken coop. Actually, hugest disaster, right? So I hear something out of the coop, and I'm not sure what it is. And I look out the window, and there's a family of 4 trying to get into the run. Family of 4 raccoons trying to get into the run.
Nah.
And so I open the glass door, and the alarm starts triggering, and I try to run out. The screen is on the door. End up running through the screen. Just I like to fix things. I like to feel, and this actually leads to another topic of conversation. But let me cycle back around to that. So I get out there, but the alarm is going off. As soon as I run out and I'm yelling, the parent raccoons run away. But the 2 kits have made it into the run, but they're petrified of me. They climb up to try to get out, but we have a net across the top to keep birds of prey out, and so they're stuck up there. And I'm like, how do I get these guys out? Because I don't want to kill them. I don't want to kill raccoons.
They're cute.
They are very cute.
Trash pandas.
So I have a pair of welding gloves, and I ran and got the welding gloves, and then pulled them down from the fence. And they didn't try to bite me, thankfully, and I don't think they could have bit me through the welding gloves. But once I pulled them down from where they were stuck in the corner, they went away. But so here's my thought today, and this is going to cycle around to the thing that I want to talk to. If you want to hit mental health more, we can do a little more. But I want to talk a little bit about DEI.
Yeah, we can.
So I had a very what I would have referred to as a manly day. I did a lot of physical labor. I moved the chicken coop around. I cut a hole in a chain link fence and built a little tunnel so the coop can get into the chickens can get in there, stuff like that. But I don't think I want to refer to that as being manly anymore, because it's not a gender specific term. And so what do I say in this space? I was thinking I could say I had a very rugged day, or I had a very physical day, something like that. I will say I was very pleased at my ability to do, I didn't do 8 hours of hard labor, but I did 6 hours of hard labor, which for me at 56, I'm pretty so badass. I did have a badass day. That's a great, that's a great way to put it. Because it was enjoyable, but it was filled with, the joy of physical exertion, but also overcoming problems, thinking about things, stuff like that. I felt really good about it. And to get the chicken coop into place, I had to tow it with the truck. And that was awesome. It was really good. I mean, I built the coop to be movable. I will say that in retrospect, that probably is something I made the coop too heavy. So it survived. This is its second move, but there's no third move in this coop's life.
It's gonna come down.
Like it's built in an A-frame, and there's 3 sections, but the parts that keep the A-frame in place, those all barely survived. I can tell they're on the end, and so I'm just not going to move it anymore. So I took the wheels off of it. But that was my exciting day. But so that idea of changing it to not use gender-specific terms cycles around to this idea of DEI and everybody being so unhappy. The thing that probably irritated me the most was people saying that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. Yeah. I think that of people on the show, right, none of us really like Kamala, right? We dislike her as a politician. We dislike her policies.
Policy-wise. As a person, there are some things that she's done based on her policies that I'm not very
Yeah,
clear.
I mean the hypocrisy of cranking up the war on drugs while you're still smoking cannabis and then laughing about it.
Yeah.
That's really a terrible thing. But none of us would suggest that she's not qualified to be president. I mean, attorney
No.
general of the largest state, district attorney of a major city, U.S. senator. What more qualifications should she have? To say that was a DEI hire, I mean, who else was there? People in the Democratic primaries, Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, first of all, she does claim to be Native American. So she would also have been a DEI hire. But also, uh, you know, uh, Susan Rice was briefly in the race. Um,
Oh, this is 20.
Pete
That back in
Buttigieg.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm saying in 2020, people who ran against.
Well, basically anybody who is not, and Pete Buttigieg because he was gay or is gay, but anybody who's not a straight white male can be
Yep.
accused of it because it's all of this the same thing. That's it was what
Right.
affirmative action was the buzzword back in the day. Then it became like PC and
Right.
CRT, and now it's DEI. And next year somebody's going to change the name of DEI to something else that it's going to end up being the new term to denigrate somebody just because they don't trust them.
Here we are watching the Olympics, and we were talking about this earlier. Women's soccer team had a big win over Germany.
Yeah.
You're going to be watching the Turkish volleyball team later on.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff going on. At the last Paris Olympics, there were 3,100 athletes. 2,900 of them were men, and 135 were female. It's DEI, the I being inclusion, that caused these women's programs to come into existence. And the reason why American women are awesome at soccer, it's not because as a nation we're awesome at soccer. It's because we were awesome at inclusion and saying girls get to play sports just as much as boys do.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Western nations came to that realization later than us, though. And trust me, nothing galls the Germans and the English and the French and the Italians more than the fact that America is so good at women's soccer, and the South Americans too. And yet you see changes happening in South America where machismo was a big thing for a long time because women are starting to play sports. That's sort of inclusion.
It's embarrassing to watch. If you're a Brazilian and used to watching the Brazilian men's national soccer team beat the piss out of everybody.
Yep.
And then a team of Americans, come down and beat the piss out of your women's national team. You can have as much machismo as you want to. Either you're going to compete, and I think that's a great change that, we can talk about Title IX and how that's had an influence on bringing that, equity within sports from our collegiate level into a national discussion about women's sports and how that is working.
Right. And it's an interesting thing. James, I'll make an interesting point about this. I don't know that that's 100% true because they have weight classes in the UFC. Because when they didn't have weight classes in the UFC, the big, enormous people always won consistently. You'll hear people say it's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. No. The big 6'4", 6'8", 350 people dominated the 120-pound skilled fighters, which is why they have weight classes, and that's appropriate. But inclusion, right? Women participating in sports, and all the statistics are out there. I don't remember them now, but if a girl plays sports, her outcomes are generally so much better than girls who don't play sports. And the same is true for women in advanced ages. If you are a woman and you're in an adult sports league, statistically, all sorts of better things happen in your life. Not saying you have to do that. There's other things that you can do, but I will agree that anybody can deliver a knockout blow. Anybody can deliver a knockout blow. Well, and what's interesting about it is, of course,
I have a respect and fear of Holly Jordan.
Yeah, well, and
there right now.
But what's interesting is that, of course, our friend right now, Ovens, has just released. This ties into mental health, right? They are co-branding a psychedelic mushroom with Mike Tyson.
Well, and, that's another thing. I mean, I was going to talk about this when we were talking about mental health, is that one of the crimes of our government, the vast crimes of our government, is the fact that we can't test some of the drugs that are being abused do have some ability to help people with mental illness. Cannabis is cannabis is far better than some of the hardcore psychotropic drugs that they prescribe. Psilocybin in microdoses has shown, but the ability to research
MDA, Molly as well. There are lots of veterans who will tell you that their PTSD, nothing touched it until they tried MDA. And then it was almost like a reset button for them. These are anecdotal, but anecdotal is what leads to actual studies. We do actual
the government prevents
stuff like that. Exactly.
Especially cannabis. They prevent any studies on cannabis because it's still technically a Schedule 1 drug, although they're trying to move it off of Schedule 1.
Which I will say, any president could do that with executive order. They don't need to go through anything
Biden
else.
tried it.
No,
I don't know if
maybe he'll do it now. The nice thing about being a lame duck president is that now you can do all this stuff. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Jordan. Please come back.
Yes.
Your comments made us a better show tonight.
Holly rocks.
Yeah. So, cycling around to DEI, though. Now, there is this complaint about DEI that is legitimate. Okay? There are times when people who are potentially better qualified for a job feel like they didn't get it because of some DEI regulation. I don't think that happens anywhere near as often as people think it does.
No.
But we do know, like, for example, universities had a higher test score ratio, a higher test score requirement for Asians than they did for other people to be admitted. And that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
I think there's something to it. On the other hand, it's a private college. Diversity is something that you want to promote on your college campus. And it's not unreasonable to say that the ability to take tests can, at least to some extent, be a cultural thing. If you come from a culture, go ahead.
Well, I think, like the Ivy League colleges that have done this in the past, where they've made that test score variant for different races, and they've included other things to kind of mitigate the overall impact. The amount of stuff that a student has to do, like extracurriculars and things like that, to get into an Ivy League school. Now, there are the legacies and all that stuff that and if you got enough money, you can get in. But they have mitigated it through putting in other things, like you have to demonstrate that you do enough volunteer hours in your community, that you do enough extracurriculars, that you're a well-rounded student to come to Harvard or Yale or Dartmouth or wherever.
Right. Because just being a good student isn't enough.
A test score is a test score. Like, somebody scores perfect. When I went to Eastern New Mexico University, Portales, New Mexico, middle of nowhere, there was a girl on our campus that scored perfect on the ACT and the SAT.
Right.
She had no fucking people skills whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think she was on the spectrum. This is, back in the day before we were really aware of different ends of the spectrum and everything.
Sure.
But she was, she was brilliant, but had no way of taking her brilliance and putting it out there in a way that anybody else could consume. Like that, there was nothing that she didn't have the ability to convey her ideas and her thoughts and things. She could put it down on paper. She could fill in the bubbles on a Scantron. But when it came to actually being a functioning member of society, she just did not have those skills. And, eventually, that was one of the things that the people on campus would, work with her and greatest thing about college is that most of the stuff that you learn is outside of the classroom. And
Right. Exactly.
80% is outside the classroom. She got a friend group, and they were able to, get her some actual people skills. Was she perfect by the time she left? No, but she was much better.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, because there is something to having that well-rounded environment. Close to both of us is Howard University, which
Yes.
is in many ways often referred to as the Harvard of the HBCU community. But Howard is only like 70% African American, because they recognize that they want a diverse community in order to encourage excellence. And so there are lots of people from different ethnicities who go to Howard.
There's some really interesting universities in DC area.
Yep.
I love Howard. I think, didn't Kamala go to Howard?
I
know she showed up for.
Yeah.
Was it Howard or what? There's an HBCU in the DC area. I think she went to one of them. There's also Gallaudet in DC, which is the school for the university for
deaf people. I will say, they do not admit people who are not deaf.
You have to have some hearing impairment. You don't have to be fully.
Kamala did go to Howard. Nice
Yeah,
job.
I remember seeing that she had showed up to one of their homecoming football games, and
Yep, she graduated in '86.
Yeah.
It's interesting that she is 59 years old, turned 60 in October. She's a Libra. I don't know why that's interesting, but
well, Gen X is the skipped over generation. Like I don't think we'll ever get a president that is Gen X.
So she is 64. So she is too early for Gen X. Yep.
She's a boomer by 1 year. So we're still stuck with a boomer no matter what.
Yeah.
But she is close to Gen X, as I think we'll get, and when we switch generations, the next the president that skips the boomers becomes was born in 1980 or something along those lines, who just completely skips Gen X and says, fuck you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. There is, a crazy, it's interesting. Speaking of Kamala, I know you've been following this thing about the fake video that Elon Musk retweeted.
Oh no, I missed that.
It's sort of breaking now, but it's pretty clearly a faked video. Well, it was pretty clearly a faked video, but the content is such that any person watching it should think, no way. There's no way that this is true. But Elon used his platform. I'll send it to you in the private chat.
All right. Yeah, that is the thing. We've talked about AI and the impacts that it's going to have. There's going to be stuff out there. There are commercials that I see on Facebook or Twix or one of the other social media platforms, and it's so it's a celebrity talking, and you can see their lips moving. The only reason why it really triggers you that that's a fake is that their voice is rather monotonous. It's not like they're enunciating and putting emphasis in their language. They're just talking about, John Goodman was one of them that I see a lot, where he's talking about weight loss and how he did it with some kind of gummy, even though he had weight loss surgery. They're somewhat believable if you're not really paying attention or don't understand AI and how things are faked. Do you want to show this on? Should we show this on on the show?
Yeah, let's show it.
All right, hold on a second. Let me.
People want to see where we've gone, what AI can do. This is pretty crazy. This is, and the key is that, right? Elon Musk retweeted this. So it has, it's been live for 2 hours, 3 hours, and has 127 million views. And he's had plenty of time to take it down.
All right, his tweet says, "This is amazing." Here is the.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time. Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking. The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring. And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. You think the country went to shit over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, that's
shitty. Pretty crazy, right?
I mean, you can tell, like if you're listening to it, you could tell that it's clipped.
Yeah,
like the syntax is clipped. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is. I mean.
It should be. It's so ridiculous that it's ridiculous. The fact that Elon Musk would retweet it,
yes,
is crazy.
Yeah, I had to meet Elon Musk.
It is. I mean, especially when you consider that. I mean, he says he bought Twitter, right, to get rid of censorship. But this is the problem, right? Is that something like this, when retweeted by the right person, seems official.
Yeah. I mean, it's, he is more than, I mean, it's his thing, and he's more than welcome to thumb the scales how he sees fit. But yeah, it was a pretty awful video. I mean, yeah, if you're not a supporter of Kamala Harris, I'm not going to vote for Kamala. That will anger you, I'm sure. But I'm sure within the next 5 days, I'm going to see that video a lot from the right-wing punditry.
Yep.
Probably resharing Elon Musk's tweet with that video. And it is just a massive official endorsement of really.
Of chicanery.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an endorsement of chicanery because
I've seen the same stuff I've seen the same stuff with Donald Trump where they've
sure no question
they've cut up his voice and all that stuff. I mean, it's not like this is a unique problem to the Democrats that they're just doing this with him. It's happening, but yeah, Elon Musk overstepped here.
Yeah, it's
at least not saying this is satire. He made it sound like, I mean, hold on a second. Whoops.
Right. right? He said it's awesome. If he'd said,
"Oh yeah, this is amazing," that
right,
if he said this is amazing satire,
right,
and he does have the laughing face emoji with it, so
right. Well, and if you only watch 15 seconds, 20 seconds of the video, you don't know that it's satire. No. I am the ultimate DEI hire.
Yeah.
Right. If that's as far as you got with it, because most people don't have attention span long enough to go longer, you don't know that it's satire. Later on, it gets
too much porn now on Twix.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So
I'd rather see a perfect pair of boobs than the two boobs that are running for president right now. So,
well, there's a tremendous joke. Guy out shopping in the Hollywood Hills. And,
I actually rather see an imperfect pair of boobs than the two boobs that are running for president.
And the real estate agent said, "Now this house is fantastic." He's like, "How much is it?" And she's like, "Well, it's $25 million, but it has an amazing view." He said, "For $25 million, I better see breasts pressed up against the window in the morning."
Yeah.
Sorry.
Young college breasts, yes.
Yeah. Should we quiz it?
Where are we at in time? I feel like we're at 1:15. So before we quiz it, I just wanted to give another shout out to Daryl Perry. Perry's Simplified Rules of Order, covering Dan's face right now, the QR code down at the bottom here.
Get my beard over.
Check it out. It's great. Only what 12 pages of actual rules. Actually, the rules end on page 15. So, but very simple, easy to use. Don't burden your organization with Robert's Rules of Orders. It's crap. This is more than sufficient for you to run your organization. So check out Perry's Rules of Order. You can find it on Amazon. That QR code that I just shared, that'll take you right to the Amazon page, and check it out. So let's quiz it. This week's quiz is not a weekly news quiz. It's on the Olympic Games.
Yay.
So, Dan, what are your favorite sports for the Olympics?
In this Olympics, I'm very excited for rugby sevens.
Yes.
In soccer, I like track and field. I think it's a little misleading, but I do like the swimming. I think the only thing I don't really watch much of, I don't really care much for women's gymnastics.
It's kind of hit and miss to me. It's such a premier sport. Like it's the ice skating of the Summer Olympics. So what ice skating is for the Winter Olympics.
I don't really care much for men's gymnastics either, but the rings, dude, that is just insane.
You're fading in and out, Dan.
How about now?
There you go.
The rings, the pommel horse. Those are just such raw strength.
The nut-defying pommel horse.
Yeah, exactly. Those are astonishing to me. I like men's basketball. I think that this year it's U.S. by a mile. I liked it better when we were sending college teams, but the rest of the world's gotten too good to do that.
Well, the rest of the world was sending pros, so
right, exactly.
You got to fight fire with fire.
Yep.
But yeah, so this quiz is all on the Olympics. How well you do know the Olympics? Again, feel free to send us your answers, because I'm sure there's some shit I don't know. But I'm disappointed that AJ wasn't with us, because I would have had to answer all the questions.
Right.
All right, question number 1. In which year did women first compete in the modern Olympics? 1900, 1924, 1932, and 1948.
I'm going to say 1900, even though I know, we talked about the statistic. 135 women competed in 1924, but I bet you that there was something earlier on. But I know 1924 for sure, but I don't recall anything about it when I looked at it saying it's the first Olympics that women competed in.
We got a ringer. I'm just going to say we got a ringer.
Which one?
Dr. Phil Degatti, who wrote his doctoral dissertation on the Olympics. So
All right.
he's our ringer. I'm going to go with him on 1900.
All right, 1900.
Correct. Women first competed in the 1900s. In 1900 Summer Olympics in Paris, where they comprised around 2% of the athletes. The 22 women participated in tennis, sailing, croquet, golf, and equestrian. Since then, the number of female participants and events have grown gradually.
It's really interesting that sailing was in there. I mean, that's a really athletic endeavor. But I'm glad it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically all the rich people sports.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
All right. Question number 2. What is the record for the men's 100-meter dash at the Olympics? 9.58 seconds, 9.59 seconds, 9.63 seconds, or 9.69 seconds? I have the mentality of a 15-year-old, so I'm going 9.69. Nice.
I agree with you, just because like I can remember when it was over 10 seconds. So it's interesting. Now, what I don't know is when it changed from yards to meters, but at the Chariots of Fire one, which I believe is 1920, no, it's in Paris. So it's the 1924 Olympics. It was over 10 seconds then. So Heidi says 9.58. But Dr. Phil says
that should be, but sadly it's not. Is that mine? Usain Bolt with 9.58. Oh, 9.63.
Terrible. It's in the middle. They would never do that. Oh, he ran the event with a time of 9.58 at the World Championship. So that is the world record, but it's not the Olympic record. That's kind of a bullshit question. I mean, I appreciate that there's a difference between the Olympic record and the world record, but honestly, you have to be a pretty hardcore fan to know the difference between those.
Yeah. All right. We'll take the loss on that one.
It
All
is
right. Question number
fast, though.
It is. Not much difference between 5'8" and 6'3". So.
Yeah.
Question number 3. What new events are being included for 2024? Foosball and horse racing, which would be awesome. Because, I would go for foosball and be drinking a beer during the competition, but that's just me. Flag football and lacrosse, squash and cricket, or breakdancing and kayak cross.
I think it is breakdancing and kayak cross.
I know breakdancing is a new one, so I didn't know kayak cross was one of them, but
yeah, flag football and lacrosse are in for next year.
If this was the '84 Olympics in Los Angeles, breakdancing would have fit right in. I really didn't understand that this is still. I mean, I know that people are still doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did.
I watched a little bit of it, and it was just terrible. I mean, it was really terrible.
Breaking to Electric Boogaloo.
Exactly. It was worse than that.
I don't know. There's not much that can be worse than that. So, breakdancing will debut as a new sport in 2024 with an event for men and women and canoe slalom. Might be interesting to watch.
First of all, breakdancing is cultural appropriation.
Okay. Question number 4. What sports won't appear at the 2024 Olympics? Skateboarding and handball, which no. Watch handball.
Handball for sure is there.
Yeah, I was disappointed. Women's handball was not as entertaining as I thought it would be.
Yeah, stick with it. Stick with it.
No, it's actually it's a cool sport. I like handball.
You know, my wife's from Croatia, and they're awesome in handball.
Yeah.
Gold medalists at the 2020 Olympics.
Baseball and karate, which I think might be the one. 3-on-3 basketball and roller speed skating.
I think that's it, actually.
That might be it, too. And sport climbing and
surfing is in right now.
Surfing's in because it's in Tahiti.
Right.
It's like the first time they've had an Olympic event that is
that far
thousands of miles away from the host city.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but in French Polynesia. So,
yeah, it's pretty awesome. So, I think baseball and karate are in. I think it's 3-on-3 basketball.
I don't think it's baseball.
You don't
I don't think
so?
baseball's in. I don't remember there being an American U.S. baseball team for the Olympics.
Dr. Phil says baseball is out. So that's it.
Baseball's out. Okay.
All right.
Out of here. Correct. Baseball and karate were both featured in the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, which were in 2021. But won't be seen in Paris. Baseball has been a medal event 6 times since 1992. Probably will be back for the 2028, I would guess.
Yeah.
There'll be 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles.
You know, it is worth mentioning that this is the Olympics that were going to be in Boston until the city of Boston rebelled.
Yeah.
Really just an awesome political story when it happened.
Yeah. That was because I know there was lots of pressure to put it in Boston, and then it just fell apart.
Boston won the bid, but the IOC wanted them to guarantee certain things, including like a new subway line, shit like that. And the taxpayers just revolted, which is pretty crazy because not many taxes that Boston says, oh, we're not going to pay that. But they did. And so
Phil's from Boston as well. He graduated from Northeastern.
Yeah. A beanpot school.
There you go. Yeah. Question number 5 of 10. How many National Olympic Committees will compete in the 2024 Olympics? 98, 176, 193, or 206?
I'm going to guess 193, but...
No, it's 206.
No idea. Is it 206?
It is 206 because there are places like Hong Kong that have their own delegations.
I saw that.
Puerto Rico has their own delegation.
I didn't understand how. Well, I mean, there's 283 countries, so 206 isn't ridiculous. But it was weird that Hong Kong had their own delegation.
Yeah.
Considering what China thinks about Hong Kong.
How much they've been trying to suck Hong Kong right back in. I don't know in the past Macau had a Olympic team. I don't know if they got one this year. They still have a separate team. The Taiwan, of course, has theirs. Palestine has theirs.
Yeah.
So there are unrecognized countries that do have theirs. But yeah, 206.
Vatican City has an athlete in slalom. No, I made that up.
I was like, what?
They have an entry in breakdancing. The Pope is bringing it
just
home.
Throws down his rosary beads and just starts breaking it down. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Question number 6. What is the longest distance the Olympic torch has traveled to the opening ceremony? 16,000 miles, 40,500 miles, 85,000 miles, or 116,000 miles?
Again, this is a stupid question because they took the torch up in the shuttle once. So it's obviously much further than all of this.
So it's got to be 116 then.
Well, but it's even further than that. So I don't know. But yeah, let's guess the max.
James says 85,000. Yeah, if it's gone up in the shuttle, I'm assuming it's gone around a few rotations on the shuttle. Then that's going to rack up the miles. But I think it's going to be some kind of bullshit that
they can't be counting that because that would be way more than 116,000 miles. So
that's actually a good point from James. Would it be lit in an oxygen-rich environment?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know that they keep it lit all the time. Anyway, maybe it had like a fake flame on it. But,
well, I know that they light it. They light it at Mount Olympus.
Yeah.
And then it goes. I mean, The furthest the Olympics have been from
Athens.
From
Tokyo.
Athens, I would say it was probably the Sydney Olympics, maybe Melbourne.
Yeah. Probably right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, we're gonna go Max.
Yeah, let's go.
Incorrect. It was 85. James got
Man,
it.
James, nice job.
James, the man. Way to go. Olympic torch arrived in Beijing March 31st, 2008, where it traveled through 21 countries across 5 continents. 4 months later, the big flame returned to Beijing for the opening ceremony, completing the 85,000-mile journey. So the shuttle was not involved.
Yeah.
All right, question number 7. How old is Quincy Wilson, who could become the youngest U.S. male track Olympian in history?
I'm going to say 16.
Yeah, I think
I have no idea.
I saw something about him being 16.
All right.
Yes.
Nice.
From Potomac, Maryland, so
Right
not very
around the
far
corner
from
here.
me.
Yep.
Yeah. Failed to qualify for the 400-meter race at the Olympic trials, but made the pool for the 4x400-meter relay team. So is expected to compete. Awesome. Question number 8 of 10. I mean, that's not anything when it compared to like women's ice skating. They're like 14 years old.
Yeah,
some of the gymnastics are
right.
ridiculously
I think
young.
in fact, they changed the rules and said they have to be over 14 now.
Yeah, they because, well, of course, the Russian doping program. They were doing things that somebody older just can't do. The body just doesn't work like that.
Right. The Chinese were using puberty suppressing drugs.
Yeah. Question number 8. In the 2024 Paris Olympics, athletes from these 2 countries will be neutral rather than donning the uniforms from otherwise referencing their home countries. Which are they? North Korea and Russia, Afghanistan and Iran, Taiwan and Hong Kong, or Russia and Belarus?
It's obviously Russia's one. I don't know who the other is. I would guess. Is it Belarus? Okay.
Belarus, because they're an official, semi-official combatant in the Ukraine invasion. They've been banned from multiple sporting events from competing. So.
Yep. All right.
Yep. And it seems like every year the Russians have been in permanent trouble with the International Olympic Committee for several Olympics and not able to compete as their own nation. I think probably since the Sochi Olympics. So not a surprise with Russia, but Belarus is because they're participating in the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
Question number 9. What is the motto for the 2024 Paris Olympics?
We surrender.
Wide open. What's that?
We surrender.
Games wide open. Come together for a shared future. These all sound like bad campaign slogans.
Parisians saw the headline in Le Monde and said, tourists invade Paris, and they immediately surrendered.
Light the fire within.
I think.
What is the lamest sounding one? I think Games Wide Open is the lamest sounding one. Come together.
Yeah, come together is a porn movie title.
Yeah.
Together for a shared future is.
That just sounds like somebody running for office.
Yeah, it's a Frenchy thing. Although Heidi says it's come together.
Oh,
Dr. Phil says it's Games Wide Open too.
It is.
Yeah.
Should have been We Surrender.
Yeah.
And
you get the double meaning of We Surrender too. We surrendered and Yes Surrender.
We. Organized the 2024 Olympics.
Made
the goal of opening up the Olympics to be more inclusive of the public, which was cool. I mean, what did you think of the whole opening ceremony on the Seine?
I confess I didn't watch any of it.
Oh, I thought it was cool. I mean, how they did it. My favorite part of the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony, that matter, is the Parade of Nations, and they kind of sprinkled it throughout the opening ceremony, so it wasn't like you just had this big block of countries coming in. So I thought that was really cool. Kept my attention a little longer than
I will say that I recommend to everybody when you are traveling, do a river tour of the big cities that you go to, because it's just a fascinating way to see the city.
Hey,
London, one of my favorite things to do is to get on the commuter boat and go to Greenwich and then hop back and forth on the median. Um, Paris, you can take there's a commuter boat that travels down the Seine, which is just fantastic. Boston, you should do the
Charleston's
Boston
got them
Harbor.
too.
Yeah.
Harbor Tour. Actually, if you haven't done it yet, go over to Alexandria, Old Town Alexandria. There
Yep.
at the mouth of the river. Well, the at the port there.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And catch a
At the
boat
end of
down.
King Street.
Yeah, at the end of King Street. Catch the boat and go down to Mount Vernon. Phenomenal tour.
Oh, I've never
Best
done
way to
that.
do the tour.
That would be
Yeah.
awesome. I would like to see that because my house is right across the river from Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
So that would be cool.
Yeah, definitely go that way. They serve you beer on the boat, so I mean you can get a little lit.
I like that too.
On a hot days. We went there. It was like 105 degrees. It was awful hot, but yeah, that is the way to go there. All right, final question. What year did the Olympics first achieve equality in the number of men and women competing? 96, 2004, 2020, or 2024?
I'm going to say 2004. Although 96
Celine Dion was awesome.
96 was America, right? 96 is LA.
No, 96 was Atlanta.
96 was Atlanta. Still America.
Yeah. Sort of.
Right. Yeah.
Greatest story about the 96 Olympics was that they did the kayaking on the same river they filmed Deliverance on.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, don't tell me. I know this. It's not the Tallahatchie. It's Chattahoochee.
It is the Chattahoochee. I lived on the Chattahoochee for a while.
My girlfriend in
Atlanta.
college was a competitive rower. She would go to the head of the Chattahoochee every year.
I mean, if I was talented enough, I would have gone to the 96 games and just played the banjo along the river near the. See how fast they go.
You got a pretty mouth.
It's great like a pig. Technically, this one is considered the first one to be gender equal. None of them have really been that way. But yeah, there's the way that they're counting. It's at least as gender neutral as it has ever been.
All right.
So yeah.
Man, that's a great chart. Hey, can you save that image and send it to me?
Maybe.
Just do a screen grab.
Oh yeah, I can do that. All right.
Thank you.
I will do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we got 8 out of 10. Not bad for news of the week is one thing. Testing ancient Olympic knowledge is another thing. So speaking of ancient Olympics, have you heard about the controversy of the opening ceremony using a I don't even know what the picture is. I've seen it before, but it's a French painter.
Yeah. It's the Feast of Dionysus or something like that.
Bacchus,
people saying, first of all, they're saying it looks like
the Last Supper.
The Last Supper, which is a little bit bullshit. But even so, it's just friggin' ridiculous.
It's not always about you.
Yeah. People should, it doesn't matter what they did, right? If they had drag people on stage, somebody was going to be upset about it.
Oh, of course.
I'm fed up with these small-minded fucking bigots. What is wrong with them? Nobody is threatened, right? A man in woman's clothing is not a threat to your society.
We've had men in women's clothing
for
as long as it,
Shakespeare.
Yes.
Right? All that stuff. And so it's just, I don't know what the deal is with it. I mean,
it's France.
I will say,
what were you expecting?
It reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld has a bit where he talks about shopping in the mall. And he's like, and the worst, of course, is, your girlfriend wants to go into Victoria's Secret. And it's like, I never want to go in. I always feel like, I'm just a little too close to trying something on. And yeah, it's crazy. This scandal is like every other piece of fake outrage, like DEI and all that other stuff. It's the anti-woke movement. And here's the thing. It all comes down to the anti-woke part of it. The opposite of woke is being asleep. People want you to be asleep to the inherent meanness and intolerance that they are putting into today's society and trying to get you to ignore. They said it was the Last Supper, but also there was like 18 people.
Yeah.
Right. And there's only 12 disciples.
Well, there was a lot of outrage by people who have a very tenuous grasp on religion.
Yeah.
But they wear it on their sleeve as their, that's their end all be all.
Yeah. Crazy shit. All right, man.
Yeah, I think we're good for this week. We will be back next week with another episode of the Political Deep Dive. Thank you so much for joining us. Give us a like, share, subscribe wherever you're at. Helps us out, distributes the show out to a wider audience and gets more people conversing. Thank you so much for Dr. Phil Degatti, James Sabina, Janice McKenzie, Craig Violette, just everybody who's joined us tonight.
Dr. Jordan
is no longer on with us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate everybody watching.
Also, guys, if you think there's a conversation we might be interested in, tag the Political Deep Dive in it.
Yeah, we'll tackle anything.
Yep.
We bullshit about all kinds of stuff. So.
Exactly. All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.